My name is Alicia Rath, and I'm 29 years old. If someone had told me a few months ago that I'd hear my own boyfriend turn me into a villain on a podcast with nearly 1 million listeners, I would have laughed. Brent and I weren't perfect, but I thought we were solid, trustworthy, safe. But all of that unraveled on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. I was at work, distracted by spreadsheets and lukewarm coffee, when my coworker Heather walked past my desk and said softly, almost like she was approaching a wounded animal, "Alicia, are you okay?" After everything that happened, I frowned confused. "What do you mean everything?" Her eyes darted away like she'd said too much. Finally, she pulled out her phone, scrolled, and turned the screen toward me. A podcast app. Episode title. My boyfriend's control issues almost destroyed me. My stomach sank before she even hit play. The host's voice filled the air, smooth and sympathetic. He monitored every purchase, interrogated every friendship, and completely lost it when I got a promotion before him. He even made me quit my dream job because he couldn't handle me outshining him. I didn't need to hear another word. I knew. Every syllable felt like ice in my veins. Brent, the man I loved, the one I believed in, had taken the scraps of our arguments and twisted them into a grotesque painting of me. On air, I was no longer Alicia Rath. I was some insecure, jealous, controlling monster. The host tore into me, called me a textbook narcissist, said I was the kind of woman who would end up destroying a man's life. The comments section was worse. Thousands of strangers calling me trash, saying women like me should be avoided at all costs, that Brent deserved better than me. I sat frozen listening to this 47-minute character assassination, my name not spoken, but my life unmistakably recognizable. The thing is, the stories were technically true, but only in the loosest sense of the word. The monitoring purchases, part why asked Brent once why he'd spent $1,800 on a psychic reading, while also begging me to cover his rent that month. The interrogating friends. His best friend's girlfriend, Tanya, stole $400 from my wallet during a party. I caught her. Brent defended her. The promotion jealousy, I congratulated him with champagne and dinner. What broke me was finding out through Instagram stories that he'd bragged to his ex Danielle about it before telling me. And that so-called dream job I crushed. An MLM scheme selling essential oils. I didn't forbid him. I just showed him income disclosure statements. But none of that nuance made it into the podcast. Just his carefully sharpened version of events. Every flaw of mine exaggerated every flaw of his hidden. I wish I could say I laughed it off, that I was too strong to care, but the truth. That night I sat in my car parked outside my apartment, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles went white. The episode kept replaying in my head, every insult echoing. I imagined my family listening, my friends, my colleagues. Who would believe me if I tried to explain? Who would believe the messy, complicated truth over the slick narrative Brent had performed? For the first time, I felt genuinely afraid not of Brent, but of his story. His story was bigger, louder, and crueler than mine. But here's what Brent didn't know. I keep records. Every message, every receipt, every inconsistency. Because once years ago, I dated someone who convinced me my reality wasn't real. A master gaslighter. After clawing my way out, I swore I'd never again let someone distort my truth without proof to fight back. So while Brent's story spread like wildfire, another story, the real one, was quietly waiting in the shadows, piece by piece, screenshot by screenshot. And I was the one holding it. I didn't know it yet, but Brent had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Because he thought he was writing my ending. But all he really did was set the stage for mine. The days after the podcast aired felt like I was walking through a fog. Everywhere I went, I imagined whispers. That's her. That's the controlling girlfriend from the episode. My phone lit up with messages, my sister asking if I was okay. My cousin sending me the link with nothing but a question mark. Even people from my gym avoided me like my supposed toxicity might rub off if they stood too close. For a while, I considered doing nothing. Letting the storm pass, swallowing the shame, pretending Brent's story didn't burn through every corner of my life. But the thing is, I knew the truth. And the truth was loud, insistent, impossible to silence. That night, I opened my laptop and stared at the folder buried deep in my drive. Receipts. Every detail of our relationship was in there. Not because I wanted dirt on him, because once upon a time I needed proof that I wasn't crazy. I clicked through screenshots of Brent's messages begging me to cover his $1,500 rent while flashing his psychic receipt bold as sin, $1,800. Venmo requests for trips he planned without asking me your half, always more than I could afford. A shaky video clip from his promotion dinner, Danielle's face illuminated by candles while Brent toasted her, not me. His excuse. It's just for colleagues, Alicia. You wouldn't fit in. A PDF, 47 pages of Brent's MLM business plan filled with pie charts and impossible numbers, dreaming of $10K a month. His mentor was barely scraping $300. Each piece was a fragment of reality he'd erased in his story. And then I remembered something buried in my inbox like a forgotten weapon. Months earlier, Brent had practiced submitting stories to podcasts, not about me, about his job, his family. He'd sent a draft recording to his sister Carly, who'd quietly forwarded it to me with a message, just so you know what he's up to. I had listened once and tucked it away, thinking it was just another of Brent's quirks. But now it was everything. In the recording, Brent's voice was unmistakable. Should I say the psychic thing was $200 instead of $1,800 makes me look more sympathetic. And maybe I should leave out the part about Danielle at the dinner. People might not like that. He wasn't just telling stories, he was editing reality for effect. I pressed pause, sat back in my chair, and let the weight of it all sink in. I had evidence, cold, undeniable evidence, enough to shred his version of events into confetti. But another voice whispered in my head, what if they still don't believe you? What if you look petty? Vindictive. Because women who fight back are rarely painted as strong. They're painted as bitter. I paced the apartment, heart pounding. I could stay quiet. Let Brent bask in his 15 minutes of fame. Let people think I was the monster. Or I could open the vault, risk everything, my privacy, my composure, my peace, to show the world who Brent really was. By dawn, my decision was made. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to let him drag me into his theater of chaos. I was going to be calm, precise, unflinching. The way surgeons hold scalpels, the way snipers hold their breath. Brent had written a story for applause. I would write mine for truth. So I started to plan. I organized the evidence, chronologically labeling each file with dates and short explanations. I drafted outlines of context, just enough to make sense, never enough to distort. I wasn't looking to humiliate Brent. I wasn't looking to destroy him. I just wanted balance. I wanted people to see the other side. And as I closed my laptop, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the dark screen. My face was pale, tired, but my eyes were sharp. This wasn't just survival anymore. It was war, but a quiet one. And I'd already sharpened my weapons. Once the decision was made, the fear didn't vanish. It just changed shape. I wasn't scared of Brent anymore. I was scared of myself, of how far I'd have to go to be believed. The first step was clarity. I sat at my desk one night, papers scattered like fallen leaves, and built a timeline. Every screenshot, every receipt, every clip of video arranged neatly like puzzle pieces clicking into place. It took hours, days. But when it was done, the chaos of our relationship looked less like a mess and more like a story. My story. Then I built a website. Nothing fancy, just a free platform with a plain white background and black text. Evidence one item at a time, labeled dated. I hid identifying details, kept it clinical. The only name that appeared was Brent's first name, the same one he'd already splashed across the podcast. I stared at the home page before publishing, my finger hovering over the trackpad. This wasn't revenge. This was survival. I clicked publish. The second step was strategy. I didn't want to sound angry. Anger would only prove Brent's point, feed his narrative of me as controlling, hysterical. No, I needed to sound disappointed, calm, like a teacher catching a child cheating on a test. So I wrote bullet points, not scripts, simple truths I could repeat without stammering. I'm not here to harass anyone. The story was twisted. Here are the facts. I have evidence. I practiced in the mirror, voice steady, shoulders squared. My reflection didn't look like a victim anymore. It looked like someone who'd been underestimated. That's when Carly called. Carly, Brent's sister, the one who had sent me the practice recording months ago. Her voice was sharp, full of anger that had nothing to do with me. Alicia, I'm so sorry. I told him not to do this. I told him. She sent me more screenshots, messages from Brent, bragging in their family group chat about being podcast famous, laughing about how many new followers he'd gained. One line made my stomach turn. If I play it right, they'll probably invite me on video. Trauma cells. I thanked Carly my throat tight. She didn't owe me anything, but she wanted the truth out there as much as I did. For a moment, I realized I wasn't fighting alone. Meanwhile, Brent was basking in his spotlight. His Instagram was flooded with self-congratulatory posts. A story captioned, "When you finally cut toxic people out of your life." Another a selfie with his arm slung over Tanya of all people. The same Tanya who had stolen from me. Caption, "Real friends, stick by you." And then the night before the live show, thank you to everyone who listened and supported me. This is just the beginning. 3,000 new followers. Comments calling him brave, inspiring a survivor. I clenched my fists. He was building a throne out of lies, and the world was kneeling at his feet. But I wasn't going to charge in swinging. Brent thrived on chaos. I thrived on order. If he was fire, I would be ice. As Thursday crept closer, my nerves hummed like electricity under my skin. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the host's voice replaying Brent's story, reshaping me into something I wasn't. But then I'd picture the folder on my desktop, the neat rows of receipts, the practice recording, Carly's support, and I'd remember this time the ending wasn't his to write. The night before the live show, I stood at my window looking out over the city lights, each one a stranger who might believe me or not. It didn't matter, because tomorrow, for the first time, I would speak, and the truth would finally have its turn. Thursday night, I sat on my couch laptop, open headphones in. The familiar intro music of Real Talk Relationships filled my ears. Normally, I'd be folding laundry or scrolling through my phone while the hosts bantered. Tonight, every nerve in my body was tight as wire. The producer's voice came through first when I called. "Hi, what's your update about?" My throat was dry, but I forced the words out evenly. "I'm the girlfriend from last week's Control Issues episode. I have receipts." There was a pause, then almost immediately I was patched through. "Listeners." The host said, her voice just a little too bright. "We have a surprise. Someone claims to be the girlfriend from last week's story. Ma'am, are you there?" "Yes," I said, calm, steady. "My name is Alicia, and I need to clear a few things up." The chat on the live stream exploded. I could hear the dinging notifications in the background. The host hesitated. "I want to be clear. This is a safe space. We don't allow harassment." I understand, I cut in gently. "I'm not here to harass anyone. I'm here because my side wasn't heard. What was told last week, it was twisted, and I can prove it." Silence. A silence so long I thought maybe I'd lost connection. Finally, what kind of proof are we talking about? Screenshots, bank records, video, and a recording of Brent rehearsing his submission, discussing which details to exaggerate. I gave them the website URL. Another pause, clicking in the background, then a sharp intake of breath from one of the hosts. "Alicia, I'm looking at a screenshot here. This is Brent asking you to cover his $1,500 rent while showing off an $1,800 psychic receipt. Is that right?" "Yes, that was the purchase," I questioned. He turned it into me monitoring every penny. And this video clip, hold on listeners, I'm watching. This is Danielle at the dinner. Brent claimed was just colleagues. Yes, he told me I couldn't come. But as you can see, Danielle was there. That was the night he said I was too jealous to attend. The chat feed scrolled so fast it blurred. Some comments were calling me a liar. Others were saying they'd suspected something was off from the beginning. Then the host's voice grew sharper. "And this recording, is this Brent's voice?" A click. Then Brent's voice filled the airwaves, casual, almost smug. "Should I make the psychic thing sound less expensive, like 200 instead of 18, and maybe cut the Danielle detail? It makes me look bad." The host's voice cracked. He sent this to you." "No, his sister sent it. She was worried about what he was planning." Another silence, this time heavy. And then chaos. A new caller patched in yelling before anyone could stop him. "That's not her. That's not Alicia. This is some psycho defending an abuser." The host scrambled. "Brent, is this you?" "Yes, it's me." His voice was ragged, furious. "She's a liar. She's stalking me. This is harassment." "Brent," I said calmly, "can you address the recording we just played? The one where you talked about changing facts. That's fake. She works in tech. She probably doctored it with AI or something." The host cut in. "Alicia, do you work in tech?" "No," I said, "I'm an accountant." The comment feed roared. Brent's desperation only grew. "She forced my sister to lie. She's manipulating all of you, and she's violent. Check my Instagram, those bruises I posted. She gave me those." I almost laughed. Almost. "Brent," I said softly, we broke up 6 weeks ago. You posted those bruises yesterday. And in your friend's birthday photos from last weekend, you're wearing a tank top. Not a mark on you." The host gasped. "Wait, you weren't even together when you submitted this story." "No," I said, voice steady as stone. "He submitted it 3 weeks after we broke up. About a current relationship that didn't even exist anymore." The line went dead. Brent had hung up. For a long moment, the hosts said nothing. Then one of them exhaled shakily. "Listeners, we'll need to verify all of this, but wow, this changes everything." Changes. The rest of the show blurred. They replayed clips from my site, apologized for not fact-checking. The chat was a battlefield, half calling me vindicated, half clinging to Brent's story. But for me, for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. Because finally, the truth wasn't just mine. It was out there, undeniable, echoing through every speaker, every pair of headphones, every living room tuned in that night. And Brent's throne of lies was already starting to crack. The morning after the live show, my phone was a war zone. Texts, missed calls, screenshots, headlines. Podcast twist goes viral. Listener exposes fake abuse story. Receipts. Girl versus boyfriend, who's telling the truth. The episode had racked up over 1 million plays overnight. By day 3, it would cross 2 million. TikTok was full of reaction videos, teenagers lip-syncing Brent's "Should I Make It Sound Less Expensive" line, comedians mocking his bruise photos, even therapists breaking down the red flags in his story. I hadn't wanted fame, but suddenly I was infamous. Brent, meanwhile, was unraveling. His Instagram, once a shrine to his survivor image, went private after he lost thousands of followers in a single day. But not before posting one last desperate story. Abusers always fight dirty. Receipts can be faked. Believing women means believing them, even when men manipulate evidence. It might have worked, except his own sister Carly publicly replied, "Enough. You lied. Own it." That post spread faster than anything Brent had ever said. And then came the message that changed everything. A notification, a name I didn't recognize at first, Danielle. "Hey, I know we've never spoken, but I needed to reach out." Brent did the same thing to me. 2 years ago, he submitted a story about us to another podcast, painted me as the jealous, controlling ex. It cost me a job opportunity. I wish I'd had the courage to fight back like you did. She attached links, 3 different podcasts over 4 years, each with a different abusive partner, each with Brent as the tragic hero. The details changed, different lies, different names, but the pattern was unmistakable. Brent wasn't unlucky in love. He was addicted to playing the victim. And the internet devours patterns. Within hours, Reddit threads lit up with sleuths digging into Brent's digital past. They found an old blog post from 2019, Brent detailing his abusive college girlfriend. The story was nearly identical to mine, word for word. Someone else uncovered his comments on a creative writing forum asking for believable abuse scenarios that aren't too extreme. Screenshots flooded Twitter, stitched into timelines of his lies. Suddenly, Brent wasn't the wounded survivor. He was a fraud. He tried to flip the script again. A week later, he appeared on a smaller podcast, one that prided itself on never platforming abusers. His voice was trembling, but his words were the same. Alicia orchestrated a campaign of harassment. She hacked my accounts. She turned my own sister against me. The receipts were real, but taken out of context. She forced me to lie because she gaslit me so badly I didn't trust my own reality. It might have worked if people hadn't already connected the dots. Old tweets surfaced. Blog posts, forum threads, proof that Brent had been spinning the same story for years, just swapping names and details. By the time that podcast issued an apology and pulled his episode, Brent's credibility was ashes. As for me, vindication didn't feel like victory. I won the battle, but the war had carved scars deep into me. I'd walk into a grocery store and feel eyes on me, wondering if the cashier recognized me as the receipts girl. My phone buzzed with strangers' messages, some thanking me, others calling me a manipulator, a liar, a woman who'd humiliated a man for sport. I'd told myself I was fighting for the truth, but the truth, once unleashed, had a life of its own. Late one night, Carly texted me, "Thank you for standing up. You don't know how much damage you stopped before it could spread further." I stared at her message for a long time. I wanted to believe I'd stopped Brent, but part of me knew people like him don't stop. They just find quieter corners until the world forgets. Still, one thing was certain, Brent's throne of lies had collapsed, and no amount of hashtags could rebuild it. 2 months later, the world moved on. The podcast hosts released new episodes chasing new drama, TikTok latched onto other scandals. Strangers stopped flooding my inbox. But for me, nothing went back to exactly the way it was. Sometimes I'd still hear Brent's voice in my head, slick and rehearsed, twisting half-truths into daggers. Other times, it was my own voice I doubted, wondering if by fighting back, I had become part of the very circus I'd despised. Yet most days life was quieter. Work returned to normal. Friends who had hesitated before started texting again. My family stopped looking at me with that flicker of doubt in their eyes. In a strange way, I'd become recognizable. People in coffee shops, at the gym, sometimes even on the train, would approach me with cautious smiles. "Are you the woman from that podcast?" they'd whisper. The first time I braced myself for judgment, but instead the woman leaned close and said softly, "Thank you." My ex did the same thing on a smaller scale, made me out to be crazy online. I never fought back because I thought no one would believe me. Seeing you stand firm, it gave me courage. That moment made everything worth it. As for Brent, he vanished. Deleted accounts, moved back to his parents' house in another state. According to Carly, he was taking a break from social media to focus on healing. Translation, he was laying low until people forgot. I almost pitied him. Almost. Because while the internet's memory might fade, the truth has a way of lingering. One afternoon, I sat in a coffee shop, notebook open, and wrote a single line across the page, "Living well is the best revenge." And I realized that was all I wanted now. Not more proof, not more battles, not more viral moments, just peace. But before I close this chapter, I'll say one last thing. Brent, if you're still listening, if you're still lurking in the shadows of the internet, hear me clearly. No, I'm not sorry. You built your empire on lies. You thought you could script my life for your applause. But you forgot truth doesn't need